On an annual basis, the Portland District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, selects a former employee as the Distinguished Civilian of the Year. The district previously awarded 59 Distinguished Civilian Service Awards, the first of which was awarded in 1961 to Mr. Richard Watson Williams. This year, I am pleased to announce that Mr. Steve Stockton is our Distinguished Civilian for calendar year 2020. Normally, we hold a luncheon to recognize our awardee, but the district leadership and I have canceled this year's in-person celebration out of concern for the safety and well-being of everybody involved. Because of this cancellation, we will continue forward and honor him with the recognition and praise that he deserves at next year's retiree luncheon. You set the Portland District's Planning and Engineering Division up for long-term success. And thus, we are proud to call you Portland District Distinguished Civilian Employee for year 2020.
When the Distinguished Civilian came up in terms of conversation, it was an automatic thought in my mind that there is none better.
When we saw his name on the list, it kind of was, wow, this is too easy of a decision in this particular case because of not only his accomplishments for the Corps, his accomplishments for the district, his accomplishments as a senior leader, and his accomplishments personally. My impression of Steve was that he was a humble professional.
Steve's genuineness, his interest in people, his willingness to listen.
He had this wonderful mixture of lighthearted joking with a very serious and professional understanding of his business and the Corps business.
There are things that you look for to want to emulate, to be a leader of the future.
People wanted to follow him, and it set an example for the district.
It was necessary for leaders such as Steve to create an environment of one of Portland District's finest hours, and that was identify what the problems are, and there were multiple problems associated with Mount St. Helens, and then work towards solutions to every prong, whether it was navigation issues, whether it was ecological recovery, whether it was managing the sediment in the right place, and Steve was in the forefront of defining the problems and working to orchestrate solutions for those challenges.
He wasn't afraid to admit if he had made a mistake. I remember him at his retirement ceremony back in DC. I happened to be there and was able to sit in. And he told the story about work that he did at Mount St. Helens in preparing a small check dam that eventually did not work the way that was intended. Now, we learned a lot from it and were able to apply those lessons elsewhere. He was humble enough to joke about how he failed in that design, how his project didn't work the way that it was supposed to.
There are very few people that I hold in such high esteem.
He stands for what I believe this district stands for, and that's doing right for our nation. And through his work in the district and afterwards, Steve is an example for many of us to look up to. And I'm very pleased that we get to honor him in this way as a distinguished civilian member of the Portland District.
I'm so excited for Steve to be identified as the 2020 Distinguished Civilian.
When you look across the breadth, Steve represents what we want as far as people being recognized on that distinguished wall.
It's been an honor and a privilege to have been affiliated with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for over 41 years, half of it with the Portland District. It gave me the experience and opportunity to work with civilian and military leaders all over the world. Projects I worked on while in Portland included Applegate and Lost Creek Dams, Bonneville Second Powerhouse, Bonneville New Navigation Lock, and my favorite, Mount St. Helens recovery operations, including the Spirit Lake Tunnel and sediment retention structure. But it's not just the projects I remember most. It's the quality people that I had the opportunity to work with. Last time it was physically in Portland District was for the 30th anniversary of Mount St. Helens. I was surprised at the number of young engineers and scientists who were not even born when Mount St. Helens erupted. Now that we just passed the 40th anniversary of Mount St. Helens, I imagine over half of you were born after May 18th, 1980. I would like to thank Colonel Dorff, Kevin Bryce, and the entire team at the Portland District for this award.